Hello there, and welcome. This is spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian, also known as Psychic Cynthia. And I want to welcome you, my fellow co-psychics and seekers on the path. I want to welcome you to another video today about the spiritual psychic path. And this is really shouting out to those of you who are on the path yourself, who have the psychic gift, you might say, or the psychic leaning, the psychic propensity. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about psychic aptitude, and especially the difference between having psychic aptitude and maybe having the gift and having talent and skill as a psychic. And I think this is really important, especially for those of you who are in the first few years of your path, not just days or months, but years. And, to understand that, well, first of all, most of us who are called to this path, we are called. I think that's important to understand. And we're called because we're wired a certain way. We're wired different than the mainstream. And we have certain leanings, certain propensities, what I like to call psychic aptitude. Aptitude means just what it says. It means that you have an innate potential. Aptitude is not the same as ability. And I think this is somehow something where we get confused. And listen, if you're early on the path, this is really important for you to know, because otherwise you're going to get very discouraged as you go on and you keep trying to develop, because you're going to start wondering why you aren't developing faster, why you aren't getting better as quick as you thought. You might have some good success in the beginning and then hit a brick wall. And why is that? If you're born gifted, why aren't you just, fall off the psychic tree and be able to do great readings and great healings? And, why aren't you perfect at what you do? Well, because nobody is born that way. And, think about it. If you were born with the aptitude to be a dancer, there's a certain set of aptitudes that come with that. And we can see this often in children. We can see that a person with that natural aptitude will have more athleticism, right? More natural flexibility, more also for dancing, more of an interior rhythmic sense. But the aptitude alone is not going to make you star ballerina for the Russian ballet or even the New York City ballet, let's say. So understand that there is aptitude, and then there is development of that aptitude, which leads to a real true talent, a real true developed gift. And if you want to go further on this path, if you want to awaken your own abilities, if you dream of not just being psychic, but being a psychic with a capital P. Maybe it's not something you want to do for your profession, but it's really something you want to go far with. Then it's going to take development of aptitude. And I think it's important to identify what your natural psychic aptitudes are early on in the path if you can. Not everybody has that wonderful experience of figuring that out. But if you're able to, one of the things that I do when I work with private clients is I administer a psychic aptitude assessment to them to help them determine where these natural specific strengths are. I guess what I'm saying here is, all of us who are called to this path, we do have a psychic aptitude, but it's not the same aptitude necessarily. In other words, there are different kinds of psychic aptitudes. One of the problems with most psychic development training, like if you go to a workshop, let's say, and this is true, at least at the time I'm making this video, just about anywhere, 90% of psychic training workshops that I have seen, especially beginning, but even beyond that to the intermediate level, 90% or more of them are geared to psychic people or just people in general who have the natural psychic aptitude of clairvoyance. And that's why there's a lot of emphasis on visualization and trying although visualization doesn't only have to be seen, but there is often a lot of emphasis on trying to see in the inner eye. In other words, awakening the inner seer, the third eye consciousness. And that's fine. There are many people who have natural clairvoyance. That's their aptitude. And then there are many people who do not, who are on this path. So, if you feel like you do have a psychic proclivity of some kind, but you've gone to maybe 1 or 2 workshops or even trying to work with some books, and you find that psychic seeing is not your main skill, I would say don't give up, because there are other kinds of aptitudes. Clairvoyance is probably one of the most common, if not the most common, psychic aptitude. In the people that I have worked with and polled, clairvoyance is the top psychic aptitude in our population, at least here in the United States. Doesn't make it any less beautiful. I'm just saying it is a top one. Clairsentience, in one of its 3 or 4 forms, as I define it, is the next second top one, or maybe almost equal to clairvoyance. So, many psychic workshops and trainings and books are going to focus in on that. And by the way, empathy is a form of clairsentience. So if you believe you're an empath, and you have really researched that and figured that out. Now, a lot of people nowadays, say they're empath. It's become almost a shorthand for any form of psychic, and not everybody who maybe thinks they're empaths are. They may have another form of psychic proclivity, and one is not better than the other, by the way, but it helps to actually maybe understand which ones you're actually strong in. But if you're an emotional empath or a physical empath, or even a healer, a hands-on healer, the healer is actually a category that crosses over into the aptitudes that I call, it's a blend of the clairsentient with the channeler, because the healing energy is channeled. But yeah, there's different aptitudes is what I'm saying. So if you go to one of these workshops, remember 90% or more of them are going to be geared towards people with clairvoyance. In other words, they're focusing on opening that aptitude of clear seeing, of psychic seeing. But if that's not your natural aptitude, you actually might not do too well at that. But don't let that fool you into thinking you don't have psychic gifts or aptitudes. Now, that word psychic gift, that phrase is a little bit loaded, I feel like, because it can have so many different meanings. And I do think of the aptitudes in a way as a form of gift. I mean, to even have the leaning and like an extra added inner ability to be psychic in one way or the other, that is a gift. But that is different than somebody who has developed the aptitude and become skillful at it so that they can call it up, dare I say, more on demand, or at least more consciously. Even if you're not calling it up, people who have worked to develop their gifts and to tune into them are more conscious of the gift. So they use it better, and they use it truly in the way that we would call a gift. I mean, Mozart, if you don't know who that is, God help you, please Google it. But Mozart, being such a genius composer and, instrumentalist, he showed that at such a young age, and he already appeared to be gifted, but, it wasn't until his years of playing constantly and developing and practicing that he became the true musical genius that we remember him for. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to be like the Mozart of psychicism, or you want to reach your own inner Mozart, you want to reach your personal genius level of psychicism, then you have to take your aptitudes and work with them and develop them. And I know that, a lot of us wish we could just fall off the psychic tree and, start being great at it. And I will say, there are a few in each generation who are very great at it young and start young. But even then, if you look at them when they're young, and they may be excellent at doing what they do, but then you look at them, if they're lucky enough to live longer, 20 or 30 years later, their gifts are so much more refined. They're able to help people better and quicker. So it's something to think about. And if you're on this path, I would advise you to expect to work to develop your natural gifts. It is realistic and reasonable to expect to put some time into this. You know, I once had a student for a short time, and she came to one of my workshops that I was having years ago out in the country at Sunset Camp, one of my training classes actually. And she did enjoy it, but she only did the one weekend. And then afterwards she said to me, you know, Cynthia, I do want to be psychic. I do want to, you know, communicate with my passed on loved ones and, you know, use my intuition. But really, I just want to let that happen naturally. I don't really want to work at it. I don't really want to sit around meditating or practicing readings. I don't want to work that hard at it. And I told her, I get that, you know, and as long as you get that you're not going to go very far with it. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that it's all just about work, but yes, it is. It's not about only about being born with a great aptitude. And don't get me wrong, if you're born with that, that's going to help. And boy, I have worked with some wonderful students who had such great natural aptitude and watched them bloom relatively quickly when they put some consciously applied effort into their development. But generally speaking, it's not the people who are only born with the natural talent that, and I don't even know if you can call it talent if it's not developed yet. So in other words, it's not the people who are born with the natural leanings only that advance. It's those that have the natural leanings and couple that with the sustained, regular practice and development. So that's what you're looking at. If you want to go higher on this path, if you want to go further, if you want to achieve some kind of mastery, I mean, we're never done, okay? And that's the other thing too. Don't get too big for your britches, all right? I think, you know, maybe you're out there and you've been practicing, you know, 2 years or 3 years and you've done a lot of readings and you've gotten a lot of positive response. That's exactly when you should go back to the drawing board and get better. Get better at what you do. Always be improving your psychic game. Always be refining. But, you know, today what I'm focusing on here is that with your aptitude, you know, you need to develop it. And it does help to know what those aptitudes are. And maybe I'll make some more videos about that, or I'm even thinking about putting some of this information into book form. I know, though, not very many people read books anymore, so I don't know, that might be a waste of my time. Actually, if you would like to see information about the aptitudes in book form, comment below. And that would be good information for me to have to decide if I'm going to put that out there or just keep working with individual clients on that. But yes, start to identify your aptitude. And also too, I mean, if you're not a natural born seer, I mean, it's okay to go to 1 or 2 psychic workshops or, you know, work with that a teacher on that, but make sure you get a teacher who can help you work with other elements of it as well, who knows how to train. Say, if you're a natural born clairaudient, that's one of my gifts, you better get a teacher who knows how to help you open that gift as well. If you're a natural born medium, natural born channeler, how about shaman, witch, druid, the nature psychic? That is a natural born, very underrepresented in the traditional psychic training courses. Yes, you need a teacher if you're going to work with a teacher who can do it all, or even just resources you're working with. You need one who can address your aptitudes. And if you're working on your own, which is, you know, more difficult, but can be done, just begin to think about where you feel your psychic jam is. You know, like, I mean, if you're into nature, like I am, and the plants and animals or the crystals or the waters or the sky talk to you, and that's a big deal. That's something that happens like every day for you. Not just some of the time, not just half the time, but like that's your life, okay? Then that's where you should train psychically. That's where you should focus. Don't focus on your weaknesses. I mean, unless you've already been doing this 10 or 15 years and you've refined all your gifts, your really natural gifts, in other words, your natural aptitudes, then you can go back and work on your weaknesses. I know a lot of people say to me, well, shouldn't I work on my weaknesses? I say, well, hell, you haven't even developed your strengths. Why would you spend time working on your weaknesses? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know, but do it however you want. I mean, if you know what? Some people like to do it the hard way. If you want to do it the hard way, then you can start out focusing on your weaknesses. But if you want to do it the faster way, the easier way, I didn't say fast, I just said faster. I didn't say easy, I just said easier. In other words, if you want to do it the more gentle way, then yes, work with your own natural aptitudes, whatever they are. If it's clairvoyance, work with the inner seer. If it's clairaudience, work with rhythm and hearing and sensing the music of the spheres. If it's channeling, well, channel. If it's mediumship, open to the passed on loved ones and ancestors. If you have a form of clairsentience that is your gift, work with that. Use that. Develop it. Lean deeper into that. And like I said, if it's, you're of the shaman, witch, druid, the nature psychic path, then lean into your nature development. But do develop your aptitudes, whatever they are. Go to your unique aptitudes and work with those. And remember, an aptitude is not a gift. It's not a true gift to the world until you have taken the time and invested in sustained effort and practice to develop skill with that aptitude.